Welcome. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the features in the auto-graded quiz. This assumes a little bit of knowledge about a form, but if I confuse you or leave you out, be sure to stick around at the end and I'll be available to answer questions. I'm starting in my Google Drive, and when I'm working in Google Drive, the first thing I will do is either open the folder where I want to save something, or I'll create a new folder. If I need to create a new folder, I'll click New and Folders at the top, and I'll put the name of the folder and click Create. So as I was working on this session, I created one just called Training Google Forms April 2020, and this is the one that I've been working in so that everything stays organized a little bit in my Google Drive. So in the Google Drive, if you want to create a form from scratch, you're going to click New, come down to More, and come over and click Google Forms. And then I usually start with a blank form, and if you click right here, that opens up the blank form. If you want the feature turned on for a quiz, you could come on over and click from a template, and there's a quiz template in there. It just kind of turns on the next button that I'm getting ready to turn on. I've just gotten in the habit. If you want a blank form, you can click where it says blank form, or you can click right over here. So that's usually what I've done. So I created my form that we're going to look at today. At the top right, there is a gear I'm going to click on for settings, and then I'm going to click on quizzes. And I've clicked already and turned on to make this a quiz. Now this button looks like it slides back and forth, but don't try to use your mouse to slide it. Just click. And it does move back and forth, but it's just a click option. Below that, it says locked mode on Chromebooks. This was piloted. I don't really know if it's out of the pilot program yet, but it was created so that when a student opens up a quiz in a Chromebook, that they can't go to any other web page. It stays locked on that web page, and they can't go to other web pages to look at the answer. I believe there's a problem with using this right now. One of them is it only works on the Chromebook. So if you've got a student that's using their own computer at home, this isn't going to work. And then I don't even know if it works on Fayette County Chromebooks when the Fayette County Chromebook has been taken home. So you may not be able to use this at all. And I just kind of look at it as if they're looking up the answer, then maybe they're still learning. So when the student clicks submit on an auto-graded form, you could let them immediately see which questions they got right and which questions they got wrong and release their grade. Now, if you want to hold off on that, maybe you want every student to finish the quiz first, then you would click turn on later after manual review, and you would go into the responses, and there would be a button for you to click to release the grades. If you did, it would show them how they did through their email. It would send them an email. So it absolutely turns on email collection, which is usually what I use when kids are on Chromebook anyway, to help you in the spreadsheet know who the kids are. Right now, I'm going to leave it on immediately after submission. Now, when it says submission, it means submission of the whole quiz. It doesn't mean submission of after each question or something. It's not going to tell you the answers. And then down at the bottom, you have a decision to make. Do you want the students to see which questions they missed, the correct answers of the ones they missed, or just the point values? So think of this a little bit like the safety quizzes that teachers take at the beginning of the year. And I think it shows us our point value. I'm not sure it tells us which ones we missed and what the correct answers are, but it does allow us to take it again. And that's up here. Shows link under presentation. You can show link to submit another response if you want to. But these were your quiz features. The bottom, if there's a save button that you need to click. So on my quiz, one of the things you'll notice is I've added a box for the student's first name and last name. And I'll show you in a little bit when we get to the responses and we look at the spreadsheet why I think that's important to put in there. And I think it's important to put in there as two separate questions. And so I'll click on the box on that question. Because I've turned on that it's a quiz, there is an answer key for each question. But I don't really want to give them 5 points for giving me their names. So I'm going to click on answer key and change this back to 0 for that particular question. And click on last name, and I'm going to do the same thing. Make those 0, and then they really won't be worth anything. The top, it's telling me how many points this is worth. So when I said what county do we live in, I could click on the answer key, and I would mark that we live in Fayette. So I've given it the right answer. So the computer doesn't know the right answer. You're going to need to tell it. And then if you want to provide answer feedback, you can click on the blue link for answer feedback. And they're not going to see this again until they submit the whole quiz. So they're not going to see it right after that answer. But if they've given an incorrect answer, you might want to say, remember to look at the map we've been using in the classroom, or read chapter 4 in our book. And then if you click on correct answers, you can provide a feedback for the correct answers. Right now, there's only one correct answer because it's a multiple choice question. Incorrect answer, there are 3 incorrect answers, but you can only provide one piece of feedback. So if they clicked Clark, Jessamine, or Woodford, or the county that we live in, they would get the same feedback. So I've marked the correct answer, and then I come down the bottom and I say done because I'm finished working on the answer key, and I'm back to the question. Now, this question shows me that it already has points, and then I've already marked the correct answer. So if I'm going back by here and wonder which ones did I remember to set them all, I can tell that that one's done. This one is a short answer. What city do we live in? I want them to be able to type in the answer. And when you click answer key, you're going to need to provide the correct answer. And if I say the correct answer is Lexington, they're going to have to spell it correctly. They're going to have to use capital L. And so if you wanted to allow that, okay, what if they forget to add the capital L? Okay, I will accept Lexington. And you may or may not. That's kind of up to you. And then you can say mark all others incorrect. And I could say done. I could provide feedback. Which of these equations would be equal to 15? And if I go to the answer key, 10 plus 5 is 15, and 3 times 5. And a lot of times, and I'm going to click done, a lot of times you'll see on these type questions, click all that apply. But if there's always more than one, you've kind of let the kid know that there could be more than one every time. So it kind of gives part of the answer away, but that certainly is up to you. I did not put check all that apply up here in the question, because whatever is in the question is going to appear on the spreadsheet at the top of the column. And to keep that from being quite so crowded, I put this down in the description, and I made the description show up by clicking on the 3 dots, and I clicked the check mark. Otherwise, the description line isn't there and doesn't show up. Now, you notice that all of my questions were set to automatically be at 5 points, and I'm not sure that's what you're going to find when you first start out. I think the default is 0. I've changed my default. I did that under the circles, the 3 dots at the top. I clicked and I came down to the very bottom and clicked on preferences. And I said, my decisions, okay, I'm usually going to collect email addresses, so I'm going to turn that on to start out with. I'm usually going to make the questions required on a quiz, so I'm going to check that. And I set my default quiz point value at 5. You can change any of those things on the quiz as you're working. That's just kind of where it starts out. So that if I had wanted them all 5 and they all started at 0, remember on the name, I went and changed first name and last name to 0. But if I had started with 0 with all of them, those would have been okay. But then I would have had to change every question. And most of your quizzes are going to have more than 3 questions. I could have also said, okay, this one's, you know, a little bit harder. It has more than one answer. Okay, that's going to be worth 10 points. So now my whole quiz is worth 20 points because I had 2 5-point questions and a 10-point question. I'm going to take the quiz a couple of times so then I can show you. I'm going to click on the I for preview. I want to be able to show you how the results look out. So let me see how fast I can type. I'll get that one wrong. What city do we live in? I'm going to put I live in Lex. And I'm going to abbreviate it because teacher will know what I'm talking about. And I'll get both of those right and hit submit. And if I put in automatically view the score right after, I can click view the score. And this is what the student's seeing. I'm seeing this is the one I got wrong, and the correct answer would have been Fayette. What city do we live in? Lex. And the teacher was looking for one of these and which equations, and I got both of those right. As a teacher, I can now see I have 2 responses, and I can click on responses, and there's 3 ways to look at the responses: summary, question, and individual. Summary kind of a lot of times will give me a graph of what the answers are looking like. Individual, what you have are the email addresses to flip through, and of course I can see the name down here, which would work for me since both my kids, I used the same email address on this one. And if I want to see just what Julie did, I can click here, or I can click on the arrow, go to the next one, or the drop down box, and this was supposed to be Jane Doe if I wanted to see what one particular person did. The other thing I can do that's kind of interesting is go question by question. So I'm not going to look at first name, and again, I can flip over with the arrows, or I can choose my question here. So I know that what county do we live in was multiple choice. It's either right or wrong. What city do we live in? Well, let me see if anybody posted anything that's kind of strange. Yes, he did Lex. I know one of them I did as a sample earlier. It's like, what if the child typed LEX and then accidentally hit the space bar INGTON? And to me, that's one that you might want to count right, because I think they just kind of accidentally hit the space bar. Again, depending on how old the child is. Now, Lex, that's up to you. If you decide that, yes, you want to give that child credit, you can auto mark it correct right now. Now, they've already seen their responses, but you can go on and mark it correct. I think I have a save box at the bottom that I can't see for my Zoom controls. Let me make that smaller and see. Yeah. So I'm going to click save on that. And then if I go to the last question, I also might want to glance at it. I don't know if I can give partial credit to that child, and I don't know that you would want to, but that's kind of up to you. Okay, so another way, we'll see what happened with that partial credit, if that looks like it might missing 1 out of 2 answers. Yep, I know. Another way to look at the answers, and the reason that we ask them to put their name in here, is to look at it on a spreadsheet. If you have, so when you want to create a spreadsheet, you'll come up and click on the green button up here, and it will name the spreadsheet the same as my file name up here in the top, which is pretty long, so you may not see it all. And then in parentheses, it puts the word responses. So I'm going to click on that. It says, do you want to create the spreadsheet and name it this? If you don't want to name it that, you can change it, but it usually names it the same as your form with responses in parentheses behind it, which makes it a little bit easier to find. And I'm going to click create, and it will create it and it will open it. If you come back into your form later, after this, you've already clicked on the button. So I'm going to come back here. So if I'm on responses and I open it up another day and I click on the green button again, it will not hurt anything. It will not create a new form. It will just open the one up that you have already created. So in this, what I wanted to see, it's showing you the score and it's showing you the students' names. Now, if there were 30 names here and they were not alphabetized and you needed to get the scores from here to go into Infinite Campus or in your grade book or somewhere, then you may want the last names alphabetized. So if I click on one of those last names and click Data, Sort, now Jane Doe is coming before Julie, and then if I get ready to put it in my grade book, that would make it a little bit faster. I'll open up Classroom. Always nice to have a practice class. So if I want to add an assignment with a quiz, if I click create and if I click quiz assignment, it's the very same thing as assignment except it has a blank quiz in it. And I'm not usually going to use it because I'm usually going to have my quiz finished before I ever get into Classroom. Doesn't hurt to use it, but I don't want to start with a blank quiz. I can go into it, delete out the blank quiz, and I could I have a blank, so and I could delete that and add my own. I usually start just with an assignment. And I'm going to give it a title of what the quiz was. This one I think I called Exit Slip. And then I would put the day and then answer these questions. And I think as we're home, we have to think a lot more about what kind of written instructions that we give. When you add a quiz, you're going to click on the Add button, and it's in my Google Drive. I'm going to go to my Google Drive. And what might be nice if it shows up under Recent, because I worked on it recently, I don't want copy of, Exit's the one that I was using. And then I'm going to click Add. You'll notice when you add it, it does not make a copy for every student. That's because you don't want them to edit your original. What you're doing really is like sending them just a way to fill out the form. The way that you would get an email and it would have a link and say, please click on this link and fill out this form. That's all you're sending them. So you don't need to give a copy to each student. And then you can decide, you probably make the points. Was mine 20 points? 5, 10, 20, something like that. Make the points. If you want to show up on their calendar, then give it a due date and maybe add it to one of the topics. A lot of people are doing topics by week right now instead of, I've got all kinds of things going on in this one. And then you can assign it. So from the student point of view, exit slip, I would click. They could view the assignment. So here is where the student is named Google Classroom 1 and LEX space INGTON. And so the student needs to hit submit here. And they can view their score and they can open their assignment. So I'm going to click view score first because I'm usually a kid that wants to see how I did. And I can see what I missed. And it's like, I missed Lexington. So this is something that the teacher could correct later. You might want to glance. If you've given a short answer, I think you're going to want to, Even though it's auto-graded, I think you're going to want to look at it again and see if you want to give partial credit or full credit. If I go back, I've got two tabs. So if I go back to the previous tab, there's an open assignment. And it says it's already turned in just for me hitting submit. So back to the teacher view. Exit slip, view assignment, and it says one person has turned it in. And click view assignment, but I really think I have to click on the quiz. Yeah, there's nothing to click on here. So as a teacher, I've got to click here or go back and find it in my drive. Now that still wants me to fill it out. In the bottom right, I can click on editing because I need to get back into the teacher view of this. I now have 3 responses because I filled out 2 before I ever gave it. So I can click and I can click on the individual questions, and now I can find of the students, or I can go to the individual student. There's Google Classroom 1, because I might want to come down here to this one and change it. Thank you all for joining me.